Labour is living in eco-dreamland. It's on Spiked online when he's not visiting the university. He's writing for Spiked. And this was in response to Keir Starmer's pledge, wasn't it, that Labour would transform the British economy to use only clean energy by 2030. Let's have a listen to what he was saying this week at the Labour Party conference.
A Britain that is fairer, greener, more dynamic. Clean energy is already cheaper than fossil fuels, 9 times cheaper. We just need more of it. That's why today I'm so proud to launch our Green Prosperity Plan, a plan that will turn the UK into a green growth superpower, a force for good in the world, a clean energy superpower, a fairer, greener, more dynamic nation.
I don't know why it makes me giggle. Why does it make me giggle, James, when I hear him talking about a green superpower? It's all a bit kind of Marvel Comics. I just keep thinking of Hulk, when they're talking about being the Green Chancellor. It's nonsense, isn't it?
Well, it's all Jerusalem, you know, our green and pleasant land. And it's green, it's dynamic, it's wonderful. There's millions of green jobs out there. Now, just explain to me one thing, Sir Keir. Right? If renewable energy, as some people maintain using selective statistics, is 42% of our energy supply, and renewable energy really is 9 times cheaper than the normal stuff, why is it all so expensive? Just riddle me that.
What do you mean, why is it so expensive? Why is it so expensive to acquire that sort of energy?
No, why are our bills going up?
Oh, why
if
are our
renewables
bills
are so cheap
Yeah.
and they're so dominant in our electricity supply, why are our bills going up? Is it all just to do with Russia? No, we know it's worse than that. All the electricity and gas price rises preceded the last climate change conference and preceded the invasion of Ukraine. It reflects long-standing neglect of our energy supply, just like our water supply and our reservoirs, and the Conservatives and Labour are fully implicated in that. Their refusal to build nuclear, their refusal to realise that we needed long-term contracts for gas, and the current gas prices being hiked will not last forever, and renewables have a lot more work to do before they can be cheaper than fossil fuels.
Nigel, you were at the Labour Party conference.
I was indeed.
And so did you sit there thinking, yes, this is it, he's got the ticket to get us out of our energy crisis, it's going to happen quickly, it's going to be green? He made it sound so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as easy as perhaps he made it sound. I mean, I did an interview with him just prior to conference when we talked about this. And the way that he sees it is, rather than tax cuts to create growth, you create growth through green energy, and that would add something like 500,000 to 700,000 jobs. So that's the growth side of it, and that's where he's coming from. Now, whether or not you actually can meet the target of 2030, or it might slip a bit after that, it does seem to me worth trying, because if you're going for that, you will be creating the jobs, you will be getting more renewables online, and on the basis of that, we will have economic growth.
Nigel, how many jobs are in solar power in Britain, do you think?
I don't know at this moment, no. I mean,
or in wind power?
I don't know at this moment.
Well, it's 6,000 and 31,000.
But what he's talking about is jobs directly in renewables and all the ancillary jobs that go with it.
Yeah, but
so
it's still 100,000 if you're lucky, right? Or maybe 150,000. We're not talking about a real industrial recovery there.
Is that because, obviously, these will be the cutting edge of technology, these forces to harness the power to harness our natural power? I will get there in the end. So presumably they are all mainly robotic, AI, digital. That's not an industry that has lots of men retrieving coal from the ground, is it? That must surely inherently be light on labour needs.
Well, it depends. You know, when you're looking at installation or disposal and so on, and when you're looking at all the labour that goes into a solar panel and all the materials that it's using, or an electric car battery, there's a lot of labour intensity there.
Right.
And we're not assembling any wind turbines in this country. That's done in Denmark. So, you know, he's got a complete case to answer about whether he's going to create more than 10, 50, 100,000 jobs. That's not going to revitalise Britain. If he was serious, he wouldn't just focus innovation on greenness, which is what everybody has gone on about since Obama's insulation plan in 2009. He'd be thinking about voice technologies, what they could do for our IT. He'd be thinking about, as I said, manufactured homes.
What's a voice technology?
Well, it's getting the studio here and surgeons and robots and domestic appliances to listen to your voice.
Oh, I don't like that very much, James.
Yeah, but if you want a programme
my phone listens to me enough and tries to sell me things when I've just been talking about it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, obviously there's certain implications, but if you want genuine innovation revival, you cannot confine it to windmills and to solar panels. You have to have a broader vision, and that's going to involve life sciences. There's a casual reference to that in Kwarteng's plan, but no more than that, right?
Maybe he's going to do both, Nigel. Maybe he will do. We are in the middle of this fourth industrial revolution. Maybe that's what this means. It's green power, but it's a lot more AI and
yeah, I mean, also,
tech.
when we're talking about nuclear, so the idea is to build the nuclear power stations we haven't been building over the last couple of decades. It's hydrogen. There's a whole host of things they're talking about. I mean, James is right. We don't know the exact detail of this, although he has been working it out with Ed Miliband for about the last 6 months to actually get there. All that will become more and more apparent. But as I say, even if you were to miss that target, striving for it will have some benefit.
Like so much in life, James, it strikes me that a lot of this is in the language, and particularly in this area. So this idea of clean energy, it sounds incredibly virtuous, doesn't it?
Well, that's right. It's, you know,
what does that even mean?
When we look at how the basic materials for renewables are put together, there's nothing clean about it. There's nothing clean about the mining. There's a lot of ferrying across continents to get them to the right places. There's plenty of particulates that are bound up with electric vehicle braking and with tyre use. So it's just to say I bought a clean car, you know, my energy is clean. It's another form of class rule. It says, I'm not a pleb. You ought to be people like us, PLU.
Yeah.
You know, you're a bit dirty. You're probably obese as well. And I don't buy it, you know. It's so snobby. I'm clean, you know, I'm so virtuous.
So only people that drive electric cars are slim and fit and healthy?
Absolutely.
Do you buy that, Nigel? It's a stereotype. It might be true.
I mean, the real problem with an electric car is they're so expensive.
Yes.
And so
they run out of power.
And the red bar as well. I mean, we were looking at a new car recently, and we've gone back to a straightforward petrol car because the idea of an electric car or a hybrid, it was just you know, it was completely out of the stratosphere. So all those things have to be addressed. The prices have to come down, but I'm sure they will. I mean, that will happen, and we then need the infrastructure around Britain so you can actually fill the things up, because at the moment you can't even do that.
You see, I had a conversation with someone in my kitchen, James, about 2.5 years ago who worked in oil and gas, and he knows a lot about this stuff. And he said to me, this is when we're kind of in the start of the COVID, after the first lockdown. He said, we're in the middle of a massive social change in which we are all going, he said, in the oil and gas industry, we've known this is coming, this green revolution. We're all going to have to live smaller lives. We're going to have to travel less. We're going to be eating less. Meat is going to be the enemy. And I thought, oh, that's a load of rubbish, as I poured him a cup of tea. And then it just all keeps coming true. And I don't quite know what to make of that. Do you not believe that?
No, we're not in a fourth industrial revolution. That's one thing.
Well, we are. I mean, that's on the government
where's
website.
The artificial intelligence?
Well, you mean we should be, but we're not doing it well enough.
Well, that's another story.
OK, got it.
We're not in that. You know, you can make moral, spiritual, aesthetic, political judgments. No machine can do that. And the whole focus on robots are going to take our jobs, AI is everywhere and so on, it's deeply anti-human.
I agree.
Not humanistic.
Absolutely.
And anybody who's actually worked in IT, I'm sure Nigel can confirm this from the fastnesses of Fleet Street, anybody who's worked near a real IT system knows how horrendous they can be.
Yes.
You know, they can prove very irritating.
Anyone who's tried to get their broadband to work can know that. You don't have to work for a newspaper.
So before we all rush to a digital utopia, we've got to understand there's a low level of investment in this country and elsewhere. It's one thing to answer the number of stars in the universe. It's quite another thing for a robot to shuffle your papers in a sensible way. It's called Moravec's paradox.
Is it, Nigel? I mean, we mentioned class there with the idea of electric cars, and not only just the idea, the fact that they're eye-wateringly expensive. When you hear Keir Starmer, who is meant to be winning over the red wall seats and the true Labour voters, talking in this way, is it going to chime with the people who he wants to vote for him?
Well, I think it does on the basis that it's big ideas, and everyone's been asking Keir Starmer to come up with some big ideas, and this is one of them. Again, obviously, we disagree about how many jobs will be created, but just say he's right, and we're talking about 700,000. That is a big idea. The idea of a British energy company, publicly owned, a big idea. Now, it may not be the kind of things people talk about in the pub, because it'll be probably Kwasi Kwarteng's budget on Fridays and the tax changes. But if you look at the effect of these things, yes, I think that does actually resonate with red wall seats, should resonate with the whole country.
What do you think? I'm not sure that people are. I think we are so saturated by green messaging now. It is on the back of every cereal box, every TV commercial.
It's on the front of TV programmes as well.
Every time I cannot turn on certain radio channels. Obviously, I don't listen to anything other than GB News, which is available on your DAB radio. But when I do, all I can hear, and we are talking about it now, but I like to think we're having a good, balanced, robust debate about it, and that's what's different. I hate the fact that we're being just brainwashed into believing this, and I think people will switch off.
But this is about growth, really, isn't it? I mean, the whole thing is that he's approaching it from the point of how do we grow the economy? I mean, in a sense, it's the same language that Liz Truss is using, but we're coming at it from a completely different direction. So we start with growth. It's not just about the idea of clean energy. The first thing you've got to accept is that there is an environmental problem and climate change is real. But from this point of view, this is actually about jobs and expanding the economy. So it's not quite a sort of a clean energy message.
Predicated on climate change being man-made.
Well, I happen to agree with that. But as it also happens, you know, what I find striking is the only time there was really rapturous applause for Rachel Reeves was when she said that she was against fracking and it would never happen under Labour. And you can find all kinds of objections to fracking in Britain. I know them all, and it's salami tactics. There's always something else, whether it's gas out of a tap, earthquakes, aquifers, lorry movements. You can find the wrong kind of shale and everything like that. You can find 20 arguments against fracking. But what is really being, she made none of them. What's really being said in this plan for growth that excludes fracking is we are not prepared to explore. We are not prepared to experiment. We are not prepared to try to go for a new energy source. Too dangerous, too risky, too dirty. Yeah. And that attitude is inimical to all kinds of innovation, because it says that because we don't know the answers, and the British Geographical Society has said this, because we don't know, we better do nothing. This is great, fantastic.
Nigel, do you feel you have enough understanding of fracking to know whether it's a good or a bad idea?
No, I don't. And that's the problem with it.
I think most of us don't.
The whole thing is about fracking is, I wouldn't like it if it was on my front doorstep.
You NIMBY, you.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and everybody is.
Yes, because, I mean, that I don't know enough about it. I don't like the idea that we might get all those various things that you listed was enough to turn me off fracking on the basis of what James said. And then, so Liz Truss is now talking about there will be local consent for fracking. What does that local consent mean? And what's the compensation there for your house price going down? Because presumably, if I'm worried about it, I'm not going to buy a house in the middle of a fracking zone.
But just on this local consent, what struck me is how Labour won't even allow that. Right, Liz Truss says, "Well, the whole point is they're stopping fossil fuels. So on that basis, then they wouldn't go along with fracking anyway." If red wall seats say no, we'll take the incentive money from Liz Truss.
Yeah.
We used to go mining here. We're going to go drilling here. We'll take the money. Rachel Reeves' position is no. Well, you can't do that. Right? It's all very well, and it's quite right to say that Liz Truss has not said what local consent will be.
Yeah.
But Labour wouldn't even allow local consent.
And any MPs in those seats are going to block it because they're going to do what their constituents want them to do anyway in a lot of the areas.
But what is missed in all of this is that we're using the wrong word. Fracking is all about the vertical fractures. It's actually the horizontal drilling that makes it a much more productive process. And you've got a lot of IT sensors down the bottom of those drills. That means that it's potentially much cheaper than many other techniques. And the productivity benefit is the thing that we need to hear about.